In the heart of Lagos, Nigeria, where the bustling city life mingles with deeply rooted traditions and legends, lies a tale that has haunted many boarding schools across the region. This is the story of Madam Koi Koi, a vengeful spirit whose distinct sound of high-heeled shoes echoes through the corridors at night. The year was 1997, and I had just started my first term at Queen's College, one of the most prestigious all-girls boarding schools in Lagos. The school, with its colonial-era buildings and sprawling grounds, had an air of both grandeur and mystery. Despite the school's reputation for academic excellence, it was also known for something far more sinister: the legend of Madam Koi Koi. It was a humid evening in late September when the senior girls first told us about Madam Koi Koi. We were gathered in the dormitory, the dim light from a single bulb casting long shadows on the walls. The air was thick with anticipation as the seniors shared the tale. Years ago, began Funmi, one of the senior prefects, there was a beautiful teacher here. Her name was Madam Koi Koi. She was known for her impeccable dressing and her signature red high-heeled shoes, which made a distinct koi koi sound as she walked down the hallways. Funmi paused, letting the eerie silence build before continuing. But she was also very strict and, some say, cruel. One day, she slapped a student so hard that the girl's ear bled. The next day, Madam Koi Koi was mysteriously fired. On her way out, she swore that she would have her revenge. That night, the sound of her shoes echoed through the school, and she was found dead in a ditch outside the gates. Ever since, her spirit has roamed the school, seeking vengeance. If you hear the sound of koi koi at night, it means she's close. Never open your door. The tale sent shivers down our spines, and that night, I found it hard to sleep. The oppressive heat did little to ease my growing anxiety, and every creak and groan of the old building seemed amplified in the darkness. I tried to dismiss the story as just another way for the seniors to scare the new students, but deep down, a part of me couldn't shake the fear. A few weeks passed without incident, and life at Queen's College settled into a routine. But one night, as I lay in bed, I heard it. A distant, rhythmic koi koi sound, faint at first but gradually growing louder. My heart pounded in my chest as I strained to hear. Was it my imagination? The sound drew nearer, echoing through the silent corridors. I glanced around the dormitory. The other girls were fast asleep, oblivious to the noise. The sound grew louder, the unmistakable koi koi of high-heeled shoes resonating through the hallway. My curiosity got the better of me, and despite the warnings, I slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the door. I opened it just a crack and peered into the dimly lit corridor. The koi koi sound was now deafening, reverberating off the walls. There, at the far end of the hallway, I saw her. A figure dressed in a flowing red gown, her back turned to me. The long, dark hair cascaded down her shoulders, and on her feet were the infamous red high-heeled shoes. My breath caught in my throat as I watched her. She began to turn, and I quickly shut the door, my heart racing. I stumbled back to my bed, pulling the covers over my head. The koi koi sound passed by my door, slow and deliberate. I could feel her presence just outside, and I held my breath, praying she wouldn't enter. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually, the sound faded into the distance. I lay awake for the rest of the night, too terrified to sleep. The next morning, I confided in my friend Ada, who had been at the school for a year. "Chinik, you heard her?" Ada exclaimed, her eyes wide with fear. I thought it was just a story to scare the juniors. But if you heard it, then maybe it's true. Word of my encounter spread quickly, and the atmosphere in the school grew tense. That night, we all huddled together, whispering prayers and clutching our rosaries. The koi koi sound didn't return, but the fear lingered, a constant reminder of the vengeful spirit that haunted our school. The following weeks were uneventful, but the legend of Madame Koi Koi hung over us like a dark cloud. One night, as we were preparing for bed, the power went out, plunging the dormitory into darkness. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of our nervous whispers. Suddenly, the koi koi sound echoed through the corridor again, louder and more menacing than before. Panic set in, and we huddled together, too afraid to move. The sound stopped outside our door, and we could hear the faint rustling of fabric as if she was standing right there. "Don't open the door," Funmi whispered urgently. "Whatever you do, don't open the door." The air was thick with fear, and we could barely breathe. The doorknob rattled, and we stifled our screams. After what felt like an eternity, the sound moved away, fading into the distance. We sat in silence, too terrified to speak. The next morning, we found out that one of the junior girls, Amina, had gone missing. Her bed was empty, and there were no signs of a struggle. The staff conducted a thorough search, but she was never found. Whispers of Madame Koi Koi's vengeance spread like wildfire, and the fear of the koi koi sound became deeply ingrained in our minds. Years have passed since my time at Queen's College, but the memory of that night remains vivid. The legend of Madame Koi Koi continues to haunt the halls of the school, a chilling reminder of the power of folklore and the mysteries that lurk in the shadows. Whenever I hear the click of high-heeled shoes, I can't help but shiver, remembering the vengeful spirit that once walked the corridors of my old school.